Okay, happy Friday, let's go. I'll try to make this a quick one. This is a first impressions video. That means that it's not a full video, but it's somewhere, but let's put it on a scale. Oh, before I continue, if you are interested in this absolutely beautiful, very, very well-tuned set, which I'll get into, go ahead and comment below because $199 might be kind of expensive for you. I think it's a great price for what it does, but you might not be in that bracket. If you commented on our subscriber on the unboxing channel and you already commented under the unbox of this, then you would just need to repeat those 2 steps over here on this channel. And in about 10 days, you'll be good to go. So good luck to you and congrats in advance. Give the video a thumbs up if you generally like it. Let's talk about this company, Kiwi Ears. A lot of people like this company. I like a few of their sets, but the Orchestra Lite kind of had rolled bass, and the Cadenza is great for its price because it was, I think it was $35, but it was a little bit dark, but I really do like it. The Fortezza, which was the most recent that I got, let me go ahead and click on that for a second. Holy crap, I thought that the dude that tunes in this company maybe had a car accident and died. I'm glad that he's doing well because they got back to doing pretty much what they do, and that is tune fairly decent. As a matter of fact, I'd suggest this is the best tuned Kiwi Ears that I've seen to date. It's not rolling off in the sub bass a la Orchestra Lite, which a lot of people liked, and it looked beautiful, but it still was rolling down there. And then we've got the Dolce, which was energetic and has quite a lot of mid bass. Now we've got the Quintet, should be most similar to this, except it's lacking a little bit of energy in the upper mids, late treble, mostly the late treble, and the bass is a little more polite. This one has more slam, but it's actually tucking in the area that would involve vocals. Now let me go ahead and stop that. So tuning wise, in my opinion, let's disclaim this really quick because everybody in the hobby watching this right now knows when graphs look good, you see them. You'll definitely see them in a written review. You'll see them in a video. And when they're less than that, you might not see them, and they might not be referred to too much. And people might say, graphs and 711 couplers, they don't really tell the whole story. So it's very interesting, and you can see it if you look hard enough, or I think it's kind of blatant. I'm leaning on this and talking about the graph because it looks great to my eyes. It obviously doesn't tell the whole story. However, I think that it pretty much reflects what I'm going to say, and that is, this sounds pretty good across the board, as that graph would indicate for me, historically, if you look at what I like, and on a library that's like mine, hip-hop, R&B, reggae, Verdi, Vivaldi, Tchaikovsky in the classical side, and then rock and roll in certain genre portions or styles, whether it's grunge, classic rock, bluegrass, like acoustic bass stuff, like Jim Croce, Neil Young, stuff like that, where it's really just a guy on a stool with a mic and an acoustic. I dig that stuff a lot. Sometimes it helps to relax me. Some Allman Brothers tracks are like that. Let's get to this now. In the bass, the triple drop, Big Boy Killjoy, I think sounded good. The 38 hertz came through nice and clean. Stupid by YG featuring Lil Yachty. I thought the drops, DJ Mustard production, sounded excellent. I liked it a lot. Another track that just came out, A$AP Rocky. God, what is the name of that one? He's dissing Drake because I think his wife is Rihanna and they had a baby, and Drake is kind of pining over that. And he threw a little shot in there. And then if you watch the video, which I saw last night, he just shows a little sliver through the door of his woman holding their baby, and it's like a to Drake, and I'm digging it. I don't want to go off track, but when a rapper who is an actor and he's acting to be a rapper, this is kind of all coming back to him, and I'm glad that it's coming back to him. Studio rappers are great for music, but stay out of the streets. Now, getting back to music, so low frequency 808 rolling type stuff sounds fine. If we get into a 4 and 5 string bass guitar that's a little more complicated, the pulls, the plucks, releases, the ringing of the string, an instrument that's named after pretty much 300 hertz and below, yet it's 96% of it exists outside of the 300 hertz zone, and its tuning and its sound and how it replays to you is directly related to a lot that exists outside of the bass region. This sounds good. This is where the 3K up and then 4-5 descending, cut at 6, starts to have an impact where it sounds natural and lively, but not overly so. So I think a bass guitar sounds good. Couple samples that I just showed in that little video there would be Please Do Not Go by the Violent Femmes, and also Sultans of Swing by Dire Straits. That's got a great bass line in it, by the way. Very, very good. So I think that that sounds good. As we get into something where the mid-bass tuck could come into effect, I'm going to show you an example of what that does. I'm trying to go reasonably quickly here. CA Audio Original Monarch. We're talking about the kick drum right now. The first time that mid-bass tuck I think was ever mentioned in this hobby was that video that I did, because that was really the first experience and the only way to describe it, because it's literally being tucked in by BAs to get that line, which is great for vocals and other things. I think it's dry and brittle, but it definitely negatively impacts stuff like a kick drum and really bass guitars. And a lot of people that play those instruments have come out and said, yeah, that's kind of, I wouldn't really want that. So this, although it is slightly tucked around 200, it's got that meat all the way up to about 150. And that is able to make the iconic intro of Bonham on the most famous Led Zeppelin album sound like it's supposed to, which is a very produced with swirling and panning kind of going on. It's a moment in rock and roll history. Boom, 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 boom. That's famous, and when you listen to that on the Monarch, the original, it sounds like a kick drum pretty much, but there's no life to it, and it's gone very quickly. It's obviously not sounding like you probably heard it on a home system, a car audio, or anything that you've listened to, a Walkman, your whole life. You probably not heard it so neutered as you did on the Monarch. Something like the Kiwi Ears, while still maintaining a nice flat clean mid starting from really even pre-200, it's still able to convey that, which was really my concern when I saw the graph and had not yet listened to the music. So let me go ahead and take that out. Vocals, male and female. Male vocals dominate my library, but I do have female vocals like Madonna, Annie Lennox, Stevie Nicks, among others. The mid bass is very like the kick drum. Too much mid bass is going to warm up female vocals, kind of heat them up, and it's why a lot of people that fell in love with stuff like the Variations or stuff tuned like that, why they like that, because they thought, compared to other sets that had a more traditional bass glide, those created mud or really, really negatively impact female vocals. So they heard the Monarch and thought, this is like top of the line, and my vocals sound beautiful. J-pop, K-pop, or genres that have a lot of female vocals, maybe Vocaloid, computer-generated voices. This is kind of leaning towards that, and it makes the female vocals sound good, but it's not making the male vocals sound thin. It's balancing that very nice. This looks like a set that was tuned by ear and looks good on a graph, as opposed to the Let's Shure DZ4, which look great on a graph but not to the ear. So sometimes you think that companies are tuning by graph, like they must not have listened to it, but it sure looks good on a graph. This looks like they listened to it with a library like mine, based on the description on Linsol, and it looks good on a graph. So they're getting both of both worlds, best of both worlds. As we get into harmonics and overtones, so I think it does female vocals well. Male vocals are fine. As we get into harmonics and overtones, which is the most of what you hear that comes from the instruments that are based in the fundamental region, which would be the mid-bass, mids, and to a little short extent the upper mids, some instruments. I knock my finger on the table right here, my knuckle strikes the table, it creates a sound. That's the fundamental sound. Most of what you actually hear, probably 80%, is like the echo slash overtone slash harmonics that are the sonic event created by that fundamental moment of two things colliding. And a lot of that energy from electric guitars or acoustic guitars or cymbals, whether they're rides or crashes or other instruments, particularly in classical music, how the treble is done can really impact whether something sounds good for 5 minutes or 5 hours, or is a deal breaker just straight out. A lot of that happens in the treble, and a lot of people take a long time to figure out exactly what they like, because this is there's 19,000 hertz occupying about 40% of this graph, and there's 1,000 on the other 60. It's a very, very compressed on the treble, so people resort to sweeps, which is where you sweep the whole frequency and find out which jumps out and absolutely knifes your eardrum, which is, I wouldn't recommend doing sweeps because I don't think it's really healthy. I definitely don't like doing it, so I wouldn't recommend it, but it's a little harder. It's easier to figure out your mid-bass preferences than it is for treble, and it's, I think, a little bit related to the way of these graphs are compressed, and you're not able to see things in the way that the stretched out sub-bass, mid-bass, mids are. It's the way it is. Otherwise, this graph would be as big as the wall. It's really not practical. Getting back to the set, now, I think it's the best tuned Kiwi Ears that I've heard ever. And it matches my target better than any set that I've heard from Kiwi Ears. And it's $199. And this is the first impressions video, and I'm gonna go ahead and recommend it. Dumpster fire? No way. Hope it was free? One guy under this video, or girl. Coping is working? No. I did see that graph and thought, I hope that kick drum is fine. But then it was, so there was no coping there. Competes with its peers at $199? Yeah. I'd buy it? Yes. I'm going to shamelessly hype it because it's the best Kiwi Ears that I've heard to date. Yeah. Yeah. That just looks brilliant on the graph, and it sounds good to the ear. So unlike a lot of first impressions where I have to say wait for other reviewers because they have different libraries, or I'm unable to find the weak points, so take that with a grain. I'm not going to give you any disclaimers. I think it sounds great with my library. I listen to it in a shorter version, like I do long form videos, which I will also do for this, and I couldn't find watch out for that. If you love female vocals, you better pay attention and wait. No, it does that fine. Hip hop drops, if you're really into bass, this isn't something you might be. No, it does that fine. If you're sensitive to something that's boosted too much in the late treble, this doesn't have that. It's rolled off in the treble. You don't like dark set, this doesn't have that. So there's no qualifiers. So $199, I would absolutely recommend it. I think it's the best set that Kiwi Ears has released to date, but that's a lot to do because the prior highly regarded sets had a bass that's not matching my preference historically. I don't like bass that's rolled. I can put up with it to some extent, but I'd much prefer something tuned like this. So very good job, Kiwi Ears KE4. You guys have a great weekend. Stay hydrated. Summer is brutal, and it just seems to be never ending. I will probably do an unboxing video for the other set, which is the Canta, which is, I'm not sure what the price of this is, but that's I think this is the main thing. I'd be surprised if this graph's any better. But I probably will unbox this during the weekend. So you guys have a great weekend. Should I lift this because it's going to fall off? No, I'll just leave it right there. You guys have a good weekend, and I'll see you probably on the other channel in about a day. And I'm out.